Okay, hello there. You have heard me talking many times about a strong leader emerging out of Germany. I likened it in one of my previous blogs to Bismarck. And Bismarck was rising up in Germany at the time when Neptune was entering Aries. We have Neptune again moving to enter Aries in 2025. And that, along with many signs that are similar to late 1930s in Europe, according to the planets, I'm strongly anticipating the rise of a strong leader that's really going to want to enhance German power as reflected through the European Union. So a strong German leader using European Union as a vehicle for German ambition. But I do think when we talk about the EU, there are going to be a lot of countries not on board, and it will be whittled down to a core group of 10 EU nations. So I do feel that Europe is going to split. We're going to be the countries that are a little bit on the periphery, possibly the countries like the Scandi countries who aren't currently in the euro, but it might be other countries as well. Definitely Holland, I don't think it's going to be wanting to go along with this. Italy, not so sure. But I think there'll be a core group of 10 countries in Europe, 10, 11 countries who are really going to be right on board with Germany's ambitions for a powerful global military industrial complex for Europe. So who could this strong leader be? Well, it was an Austrian news site, Die Wirtschaft, and they published an interview of Germany's former defense secretary, Karl Theodor zu Guttenberg. This was on November 27, 2019. And in it, Guttenberg was talking about a final wake-up call for Europe. And he was appealing for Europe to have this wake-up call. But what does that mean? I mean, what's he on about? Well, according to this Karl Theodor von Guttenberg, he said in quotes, Europe must quickly move closer together and show strength also militarily. So he wants Europe to unite and obviously show their strength with military. And you can see now they're talking about moving away from NATO, the importance of a European army. Ursula von Leyenberg, now that she's taken over from kind of Juncker in the EU, has been talking about it frequently. So Guttenberg was asked, how can Europe position itself to play a decisive role globally alongside China and the USA? He said one needs to see antagonism between China and the United States because the resulting lines of conflict will provide an opportunity for Europe. So I think that he was then asked, would it be time for the European Union to adopt a geopolitical agenda that goes beyond economic policy? And Guttenberg said, definitely. I mean, he's emphatic. He now sees Europe as far more than an economic power, that it should be taking on China, the US. But also, I think he's not mentioning Russia, but that's going to be very important as well. So he talked about armed forces and how developments in China and the US had given him hope that this final wake-up call would now be heard. He said, you've got to stand up to those who want to keep us small. Guttenberg said, truth be told, a lot of people want to keep the EU small. He certainly doesn't. And he opposes people who want to keep the EU or Germany small. In this way, I think they might actually be pleased that the UK has left, because the UK might have been a restraining force on this. Now that you've lost the UK, I mean, there's no one to balance out the power of Germany and France, because Macron, to my mind, seems like he would be very much on board with this. So almost us leaving has paved the way for them to just fly off in this direction. I mean, they're not going to be getting any pushback from the Portugals, the islands, Spain, any of those countries, are they? So Guttenberg claims that Germany needs to overcome some understandable historical complexes. He also said that Europe has a realistic chance to become a world champion in adaptation. And he said that's adapting to the global military and economic challenges of the current 2020s. The interviewer said, would it be conceivable that you would return to politics and initiate appropriate reforms? So Guttenberg responded, well, I think a lot of people would be happy if I kept saying no. So as the article says here, it's a canny political statement. He's not saying outright that he wants to return to central politics, but he's certainly moving in that direction, right? So right now, Germany definitely lacks leadership to bring about the kind of demands Guttenberg is making. He knows that. He knows that, he's got an open shot at goal, really. There's no one else emerging. He could be the strong leader that is going to emerge. So In another interview with RTL NTV editors on January the 17th, Gutenberg said about Germany's current chancellor, he said, "We are now at the finality of a highly accomplished chancellor who led a country through many storms. But now the time has come when the next must come to lead." So he's definitely sees himself, he's just putting himself out there. Come on, isn't he just? He's not saying it in so many words, but he's definitely putting himself out there. So who exactly is this next leader going to be? Well, I think he's putting himself in the frame for sure. On January 19th, Gutenberg gave a speech entitled 2020 Risks and Opportunities as a Transatlantic Key Year. And a local news media quoted him making this statement: "Others are beginning to benefit from Germany's weakness. And while there's still hope for the continent, the time window is closing." I believe he's mainly concerned with China and China's rising influence on Europe, and he wants to create pushback against that. And he's also indicated in other places that Germany and Europe must act now while the transatlantic relationship is still somewhat strong. So they kind of want to cash in to the fact that they still have NATO. In other words, they're still fairly cozy with America, but they want to start building up their defenses for sure against China. So Gutenberg also sees a window of opportunity with Donald Trump going head-to-head with China. What Trump is doing is definitely weakening China. In a way, it hasn't all been beneficial to Europe, but it certainly provides them an opportunity to take advantage of China's weakness, which they will see even more, what with this coronavirus going on and the Chinese economy being sort of weakened, to step ever more into that role. So we've talked a lot about who this next strong leader is going to be for Europe. Could be this Gutenberg guy. He definitely is doing the rounds. He's talking the talk. He's kind of setting the stage for what he thinks the agenda should be. It's definitely a military one, and it's definitely for a very powerful Europe. So we'll watch in days to come whether he's going to be the one to step out of the shadows. Merkel's definitely, her power has been waning. Germany's crying out for a strong unifying leader, and this could be it.